The slave markets of Proxima Station reeked of desperation and cheap disinfectant. Among the huddled masses of various alien species, Emma stood apart, not by choice, but by the cruel hand of fate. Her scales, which should have shimmered like polished emeralds under the station's artificial lights, were dull and patchy. Her left wing hung at an awkward angle, the membrane torn and poorly healed. The draconian merchants had labeled her defective merchandise and priced her accordingly. Lame dragonborn. Her own clutch mother had spat before signing the transfer documents. Better to recoup some credits than waste food on a flightless failure. Emma had stopped crying 3 solar cycles ago. Now she simply existed, her golden eyes tracking the endless parade of potential buyers who glanced at her listing, saw the discount price, read the medical reports, and moved on. No one wanted a broken draconian, especially not one from the prestigious Sci-fi lineage. She was a liability, a reminder that even the most ancient and proud species could produce flawed offspring. The mountain man arrived on the 4th day. Jason moved through the market with the steady gait of someone who had walked more miles on real Earth than most people traveled in spacecraft. His human features, weathered skin, gray-streaked beard, and deep-set blue eyes, marked him as an oddity on a station where most humans preferred the gleaming cities of the inner colonies. He wore clothes made from animal hides and carried a walking staff carved from someone Emma didn't recognize. He stopped in front of her containment field. Emma didn't look up. She'd learned that hope was more painful than disappointment. "You're Emma Skyfire," Jason said. Not a question, a statement. She raised her head slowly. Humans rarely bothered to learn draconian naming conventions. She corrected, her voice hoarse from disuse. "That name died when my family sold me." Jason's eyes narrowed, and for a long moment, he simply studied her. Not her twisted wing or patchy scales. He looked at her face, into her eyes, with an intensity that made Emma uncomfortable. Humans weren't supposed to maintain eye contact with draconians. It was considered aggressive, challenging, but Jason wasn't challenging her. He was searching. "Your wing wasn't born that way," he said finally. Emma's breath caught. "The medical reports are incomplete." Jason tapped his staff against the floor. "I've tracked wounded raptors through the Colorado peaks for 40 years. I know the difference between a birth defect and a trauma injury. That wing was crushed, probably when you were young. The bone set wrong because whoever treated you didn't understand draconian skeletal structure." The slave merchant, a Volarian with too many arms and not enough ethics, slithered over. "The specimen is priced as is, human. No refunds for defects." "I'm not looking for a refund," Jason said quietly. "I'm looking for the truth." He purchased Emma's contract with a credit chip that looked ancient and battered, probably older than the station itself. The merchant processed the transaction with barely concealed glee, finally unloading the unsellable merchandise. Emma followed Jason through the station in a daze. She expected to be led to a cargo hold, or perhaps a laboratory. Instead, he brought her to a small, rented room that smelled like pine and wood smoke. "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to a chair that looked handmade. Emma Saturday. Jason pulled out a portable medical scanner, one of the newer models that could analyze multiple species. He ran it over her wing with practiced efficiency, his weathered hands surprisingly gentle. The scanner beeped and chirped, displaying data that made Jason's frown deepen. "Somebody crushed this wing deliberately," he said. "The fracture pattern is too precise. This was done with pressure, probably in a vise or clamp, when you were between 2 and 3 years old." Emma's world tilted. "No, I was told it was a birth defect, that I hatched wrong." "You were told a lie." Jason pulled up a chair and sat across from her, his blue eyes boring into her golden ones. "Someone in your family crippled you, Emma. Someone wanted you to be flightless, to be considered worthless. And when the damage was permanent, they sold you rather than risk questions." The implications crashed over Emma like a tidal wave. Her clutch mother's constant disappointment, her siblings' mockery, the way her sire had never met her eyes. They hadn't rejected her for being born broken. They'd broken her and then rejected her for it. "What?" The word came out as a broken whisper. "That's what we're going to find out." Jason stood and moved to a small kitchen area, beginning to prepare something that smelled like meat and herbs. "But first, you're going to eat real food. Then you're going to rest. And when you're strong enough, we're going to fix that wing." "It can't be fixed," Emma said automatically. The medical reports were written by doctors who didn't care enough to look closely. Jason turned, and Emma saw something fierce and protective in his expression. I'm a tracker, Emma. I find things that are lost, uncover truths that are buried, and fix what others say is broken. I've reset the wings of eagles, the legs of wolves, the spirits of people everyone else gave up on. He placed a plate of food in front of her. Real meat, not the protein paste she'd subsisted on in the markets. You're not lame, Jason continued. You're a survivor of deliberate mutilation who was sold by the people who should have protected you. There's a difference. Emma looked down at the food, then up at this strange human who saw past the lies her own family had built. For the first time since her wing had been crushed in the darkness of her childhood nest, Emma felt something dangerous kindle in her chest, hope. Why are you helping me? She asked. Jason smiled, and it transformed his weathered face. Because I spent 40 years in the mountains learning that the most valuable things are often the ones others throw away. And because when I looked in your eyes, I didn't see a lame dragon. I saw a warrior who survived a war that started before she could even fly. He extended his hand, a human gesture of partnership. So here's my offer. Let me help you find out why they did this to you. Let me help you heal. And when you're ready, you can decide what you want to do with that truth. Emma looked at his calloused hand, thought of the long years of pain and shame, and made a choice. She reached out with her clawed hand and grasped his firmly. Deal? She said, and felt her scales shimmer, just slightly, with their old emerald fire. Outside the window, the stars of Proxima Station glittered like promises waiting to be kept. And in a small room that smelled of earth and hope, a broken draconian and a mountain man began planning the kind of investigation that would shake the foundations of one of the galaxy's oldest families. Because sometimes the truth wasn't found in medical reports or family records. Sometimes it was found in the eyes of someone who refused to stop Lukey.